There's politics, there's money. Money is the primary thing, the primary mover. The fear of competition has always driven the midwifery role. As long as everybody's fat. Before 2009, before the stock market crashed in the recession, midwives were fine. Yeah, you got midwife. Okay, good. That's fine. Give patients a choice. You got a midwife. Then when things got lean and everybody went to this strictly volume-driven model, you have to see 100 patients a day, otherwise you can't make ends meet. Then it became, well, I don't want to, I don't want anything to take away any of my volume. I don't want the midwife, I don't want the PA, I don't want the whoever. I have to make sure I keep every patient. And the patients are getting, that kind of care. They're getting the get them in, get them out care. I'm going off kind of off message, but the simple thing is that there are many pieces that impact how midwives are treated, but the big driver is, as I said, it's the financial, and it's the kind of patient. If we start taking care of the well-off or the better-off patient and start to do more, as opposed to having the majority of midwives working in hospitals, in inner-city hospitals, then we would be more readily accepted. One thing that I was able to do when Joyce Roberts was president of the A.C.N.M, she asked me if I would be willing to chair ad hoc committee for minority affairs. And I told her yes, I would. That was, I think, in 81, 82, somewhere in there. I had been thinking for years that there needed to be something. We had the misfortune, and I don't know if any of the other speakers of color spoke to the issue of there was never a quote place for African American, Hispanic, Asian midwives, for them to talk about the issues, for us to talk about the issues that were important to us. I did not experience many problems that people have with getting privileges. I didn't have a problem because my first job, I got privileges in the place I trained. Everybody knew me. We used to meet in hotel rooms. We were sitting on floors and sitting in bathrooms and sitting on dressers, and everybody would pack into this room at convention, and it would be like 50 people in a typical small hotel room. And the purpose was the camaraderie and the ability to talk about the things that bothered us and that we needed to talk about without fear of reprisal. And that was so critical. You have to remember, when I went to school, Teresa Marsico was my program director, God rest her soul. Teresa mentored me. She was the kind of person that said, Shirley, you can do this. Long before I did anything with the A.C.N.M, I was going to Trenton to testify before the Senate hearings on maternal child health block grants and whatnot. When Joyce Roberts had the insight to realize that there needed to be a formal recognition of the ethnic minorities of the college, and said, would you chair this committee? I was happy to chair it. We had a very small budget, but it was the best thing that could have happened. Students were complaining of racist faculty. People looking for jobs were complaining about the inability to get privileges. They were complaining about just all kinds of racist or perceived racist attitudes. Folks would say, well, I couldn't get a job. I've been out of school 3 years. I can't get a midwifery job. But where have you applied? Well, I applied here, I applied there, but they didn't hire me. They hired my classmate. Why? Were the classmates smarter than you? No, I had a 4.0 average. My classmate had a 1.5. Not literally, but it was that kind of big difference in people were passed over. I mean, faculty, people who were already teaching, talking about how they were, as faculty, being shut out of uh, the rest of the faculty conclave, so to speak. People who were already working, oh yeah, they had to work all the holidays. They had to work all the night shifts. That was real. That was real. It happened. In the mid '80s or early '80s, when I chaired that committee, one of the questions that came up was, does the committee, this is an ad hoc committee, which, as you know, ad hoc, it is only active at the discretion of the person that appointed it, you know. So do we want to be a committee of the college or do we not? Some people said, you know what? I think it would be good if we became a standing committee of the college because we would have, a greater ability to move and interact with the other major committees and divisions. And other people said, no, we want to keep it informal because then we can kind of move and shake the way we want to, but then your credibility is going with all that moving and shaking. So, what do you want to do? So most people did not want a committee. The following year, had a new president. I stepped down from being the ad hoc chair. Carolyn Curtis was the chair, and she put it out to the Midwives of Color Committee members and said, do you want a committee? And people said, yeah, hey, you know what? We should be a standing committee. So it is a standing committee of the college. I think it is a good thing. Every year they have a fundraiser. Every year they give out scholarships to midwives, students of color. And I think that it's a good thing. But it's not enough. And you know why it's not enough? Because one of the primary goals of the board this year, the A.C.N.M board, is to increase the diversity. Why are we still talking about this 30 years later? Not that it's not, important, but I'm saying then we should have fixed it. It didn't get fixed. It didn't get fixed. There are people who, and I'm very happy to have been involved in many A.C.N.M activities. I was on the board of directors representing Region 2. I sat on the foundation of the A.C.N.M. As I said, I chaired the Minority Affairs Committee. I was on the Education Committee. I was involved in quite a few different activities and committees. Why? Because I felt like my presence as an ethnic minority was important. It was important for the group to be aware that there were midwives of color who were, able to string a sentence together without too much difficulty, and that I felt like I kept certain people honest. And honest, what I mean by that is the things that I wonder what went on behind closed doors when there were no ethnic minorities present. They couldn't say them with me sitting there. So they had to swallow their spit, and consequently, many times I got an opportunity to bring a different point of view. Because some people they didn't have they didn't have the ethnic minority point of view to compare to what they were thinking. Then a lot of times it was like, oh, I didn't realize. I remember one year at convention, Jimmy Carter's, our president, Jimmy Carter, his mother, Miss Lillian, came to be a speaker at our convention, at the A.C.N.M convention. I don't remember what year it was. I want to say late 80s, early 90s. And she came out and she was very gracious and she spoke and she talked about the fact that the president had been delivered by a midwife. Yes. She looked at the audience and she said, what are all you white girls doing out there? And I thought that was so funny. But then I thought, well, yeah, because she is from rural Georgia. She probably never saw a white midwife. Hmm. But then, you know, look at the educational changes that have occurred in midwifery. When I went to school, I went to a certificate program. The only requirement is that you had an RN and you have 2 years of OB experience. Now you're required to have a bachelor's degree. If you look at the educational system in this country, a lot of people are not getting bachelor's degrees in nursing school. They're going for an associate degree, or maybe they had a diploma or whatever. They are not eligible to apply to midwifery school. So that moved out a whole group of people who might have gone to become nurse midwives, but they did not. They no longer met the qualification. I appreciate and understand the need to keep midwifery education at a higher level. That midwifery education should take place in institutes of higher learning, but it really cut down on the pool of applicants that were, considered eligible. Everybody can't have a PhD. Everybody doesn't need a PhD. And if you're going to be at the bedside, really, I mean, is that what you need? The focus on research? I think what you need is a strong clinician. If you have a degree, that's good, but you need to be a strong clinician to be able to safely, do what you need to do. I have a master's in education. My basic nursing was associate degree. I went to when I finished the associate degree, I went to midwifery school a few years later, and then I did my BSN after that, and then I did a master's in education after I'd had a chance to teach. I was actually teaching in a certificate program, and I was a clinical instructor. My students elected me or nominated me for the Excellence in Teaching Award without a degree, mind you. And with no degree, and I got this, I won the Excellence in Teaching Award, and the award was a $2,500 tuition voucher. And I took that $2,500 tuition voucher and went to Rutgers University, and I started I went to the Graduate School of Education in New Brunswick. It's important that there are people who are prepared at that level for, as you say, research and policy. You need to be prepared at that level to go to the office, the clinic, or whatever, and provide care to women. That's not to say that a PhD cannot, but that's not what they're trained to do. You're training them for away from the bedside. But, we talk about midwives. How many of them are deans? Many midwives are deans of nursing school. They're, of course, faculty, and they are, administrators and policy development people. But how many of them are actually clinicians? The young ones who have not had a lot of experience, they are, they're your clinicians. The ones with the experience have moved on to research and policy development. When I went to midwifery school, there were more certificate programs than master's level programs. Okay? Now the converse, I don't think there are any certificate programs left. I think they're all master's level. And don't hold me to it, but I think they're all master's level. So what does that say? I remember Kitty Ernst, who is one of the founding mother pioneers of the college, once said, we need to have 10,000 by 2,000. And then it's past 2,000, it's 2014. We still don't have 10,000 midwives. Why? Because all of the potential candidates, or many of the potential candidates, don't have a bachelor's degree, and they may be thinking, well, hell, if I'm going to school to get a bachelor's degree as a mandate, then I don't know if I really want to do midwifery. Maybe I want to go do something else. I had a job offer last summer to be a clinical instructor at a major university. And I spoke to the dean, and they had a copy of my CV, which obviously they didn't read. They had a copy of my CV, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so impressed with your clinical background and your educational background, your administrative background, and I think you can be an asset, and we want you to be a clinical instructor this summer." And I said, "Well, thank you. I really appreciate it, and the kind words." Gave me a packet, a new hire packet. Sent me to Human Resources. I'm there filling out the W-2s and all that. The W-4s. She came in and she said, "Oh," she said, "I just want to check one thing. You have your master's in nursing, right?" And I said, "No, I have a master's in education. That means I know how to teach." "Oh, I'm so sorry. We can't hire you." The National League of Nursing has decided that every person who is teaching a nurse has to have a master's in nursing. I said, "Okay, fine." So I was talking to my brother about it one day, and he said, How bad do you want to get back to education?" I said, "I would like to. I really would like to go back and teach, but something inside of me is saying, don't do it." I don't know. I was in academia for 9 years. I don't know if I want to go back to academia and what it has become. We're focused on the wrong thing. I had faculty when I was a student who had come out of, institutes of higher learning with their master's degree, but couldn't midwife their way out of a paper bag. And I'm not being insulting, it's the truth. I had one faculty member who said to me, "Just don't ask me to do anything. Know, don't ask me to do." What? I mean, so if you have these faculty that are so educated that they can't do the job, they used to say those that can do and those that can't teach. It's still true. It's still true. It's unfortunate. Then you have people who actually enjoyed teaching and are able to teach, and they say, "Go back and get a master's in nursing, and now we'll let you teach. Now we believe that you'll understand the fundamentals and principles of education." Really? Okay. I have to know the theories of nursing. Nursing theory is what they want you to understand. When you're at the bedside and the patient is dying or laboring or whatever, they don't give a darn whether you know a theory of nursing practice. They want to know if you can do it. Never mind the theory. So New York was trying to debate about who they would nominate for because it has to be an election, and all of the states that were covered under Region 2 at the time. I think they've realigned the regions a little bit, but it was definitely New York, New Jersey. I want to say Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, even though I never got to go to those places as a regional rep. But I remember Teresa Marsico coming to me saying, I want you to run for regional rep." And I'm thinking, me? I don't want to run for regional rep. I mean, that's got to be, you're on the board, right? I mean, you're looking at the president of the A.C.N.M. I mean, it was just too heady for my, I wasn't quite ready for that. She said, "You can do it, and I'll help you. I'll to help you do what you need to do." And I was fascinated, and I was grateful that I had the opportunity. I never saw accomplishments as, "Oh, look what I did." Look what I have had the opportunity to do, and hopefully, to do something that benefited somebody. In my early career, regrets, I worked a lot. Midwives will work for nothing. Don't let anybody tell you that they wouldn't, but most midwives fresh out of school work for free. But we don't want that to get around. I worked for nickels and dimes. But I was so happy and so excited to be a part of somebody's birthing process and to go to, to the clinic every day and take care of patients. It was heady stuff for me. And consequently, I spent a lot of time at work, time that I should have been spending with my children. That's my one regret. My son was older. He's like 13 years older than my daughter. But my daughter was 4 when I went to midwifery school. Or I guess she wasn't 4 yet. She was almost 4. But I remember one day she's sitting on the porch playing with a friend, and her little friend lie down on the ground and was holding her knees like she was giving birth, and she was like, So I looked at my daughter. I said, "Aren't you going to help her? Aren't you going to do like mommy does and be the midwife?" And she said, "No, because midwives don't have time for their little girls." And that was too much. So you sacrifice a lot as a midwife because you you can only, there's no half doing it. You don't have to midwifery. You're either all in or you're all out. For me, there's so many things that will overpower any regret. I don't call it a regret, but I just feel like I should have been there more for my children and less for my patients. And but then how do you make that balance? But they understand. They never blamed me. I mean, they didn't get to be adults. I mean, they're grown-ups now with children of their own, and they don't say things like, "Well, if you hadn't have been a midwife and been gone all the time, and Grandma had to raise us," and blah blah blah. So they don't beat me with it, but I beat myself. It's going to sound like a trite and stock thing, but that with woman is what midwifery means to me. It doesn't matter where you are with woman, not only the site, but also where that woman is at in her life. I take care of women who are HIV positive. They are drug addicts. They're prostitutes. They're alcoholics. They are many things, but they're still human beings. And I can give them the love and care that I would give the most, the most wealthy, educated person. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So that's what midwifery means to me, to be able to transcend all of that. Doesn't matter who they are, what they do, where they came from, doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, if you're with women, you're with women regardless. Regardless. You wonder whether being a midwife, becoming a midwife had something to do with my own birth experience. A lot of midwives have bad birth experiences. I don't know if you've heard that before. I had a bad birth experience with my baby, my last one, and she was in trouble. She was overdue and meconium and the whole nine. And I was post-8, of course, and had a retained placenta because it was a placenta accreta, and I had to have a DNC on the delivery table, and it was just all kinds of ugly. And I said, this is insanity. Why would anybody? But I think people go into midwifery because it's a calling. It's like a religion, really. It has nothing to do with money, because you can't get rich doing this. There's no logic because you're in a profession that is politically a football hot potato. You have an identity crisis. A lot of people don't know what we do, what we are. I mean, why would anybody want to go into a profession that you have to keep explaining who you are and what you do? Why indeed? Because it's something that goes beyond all that. It goes beyond your identity. It goes beyond your pocketbook. It goes beyond your politics. It's a calling. You have to feel it. It's nobody could made me do this job. Nobody could have made me want to be a midwife. You have to want this. You have to love it. It is what it is. I'm a midwife. I was able to go back 7 generations, and I was able to find out that my great grandmother was a midwife. And because she was a midwife, I don't know, I mean, perhaps it's something that kind of passed down amongst family members, I don't know. But I also know that she delivered all her daughters of their children. You know, she delivered all her grandchildren, which was amazing because she had 5 daughters and delivered them all. Maybe it's hereditary. Maybe it's, I have no idea. But everybody, it's interesting because everybody that was in the family that family members that I knew, nobody knew that she was a midwife. When I searched back during the family tree, I found that out through cousins and people that I had never met.